One of the things that I have repeatedly heard from people is that it's really hard to trust the results of LLMs. And it's a very legitimate criticism because Gen AI and LLMs in particular tend to be unpredictable. And that's part of the charm and beauty of having them. And so recently I had the opportunity to apply AI models to doing Apex code analysis. And I decided to run 3 different models on it and share the results here in this video. And what I want you to see is how these different models look at the exact same prompt, the exact same set of input, and how their output differs. I'll walk you through some of it, and then I'll show you how easily we were able to just switch these and try them out. So let's first look at the results. So what we've done here is we have written some code, and I'm using GPTfy, which is an AppExchange product that we make. And basically it lets you bring any AI model into your Salesforce, 100% native with its own data masking layer. You don't need to buy anything. You buy GPTfy, connect it to your AI model, and you can work. So anyway, so basically we have created this custom object called DevArtifactReview. And every time a class is added or updated, we will insert a record in here. We have a parent record for the dev artifact, which would be the class itself. And then every time it's updated or the first time it's discovered, we the record and then we analyze it. And the idea is that a developer can then look at it, make changes if they need to, and you have a full log of what happened. So what we will do is we will run this prompt here called Apex Code Analyzer. And what this prompt does is it's going to pull the Apex code using metadata API. It will send it to an AI model along with a very exhaustive prompt and will scan the class. And then we get a result. I'm going to walk you through the result that I got for that exact same prompt, 3 different models. So I'm going to open this and show you when I ran it against OpenAI 04. So that's a reasoning model, and I ran it. And what you're starting to see is it talks about what is this class, what its purpose is, and it identifies a critical issue, which is that there is no with sharing implement. And it explains why this is the case, how to fix it. What's interesting is across these 3 models, what you will find is that what they identified as a critical issue is different. So I'm going to go down, then you see it talks about what are the other important issues, use of general exception, it explains it, how to fix it, and all of it. And as I will show you the other models, you will see the qualitative difference in how they explain these things. I'm not doing any sort of a performance type evaluation here in terms of how quick they were, although the fastest in the 3 that I tried was Google Gemini. So I did try Google Gemini, I tried Anthropic Claude on AWS, and I tried OpenAI 4.0 on Microsoft Azure. So basically the big 3 were covered here. So I'm going to continue going down, and you'll see then it talks about some minor improvements, like your code commenting was not great and you should have provided comment tags, and it explains it really nicely. A lot of this is because the prompts were really comprehensively written, which I think is a very important part of implementing AI. So anyway, so you see then there are some other things, and finally it gives you like, here are my recommendations for testing, and here it gives you a summary. The thing that's interesting here is it only talks about the positive aspects and not any criticism of or the negative aspect. So that is 4.0. I'm going to go back and look at the result that I got earlier. This is Anthropic Claude on AWS. So it added this here, which I don't know why. Exact same prompt. It was just supposed to generate the HTML, but anyway, it did this. So again, similar idea. It gave us an overview of what this class is, what the key functionalities. I like how it explained a little bit nicely. Here's the key functionality and all of that. But interestingly, the critical issue this one found is completely different, right? It did not think about with sharing without sharing as a critical issue, but it thinks the socket query issue. Again, a part of it is that maybe I can write a much more comprehensive prompt that includes a whole lot of these things so that they are doing this more diligently. But you also start to see how these LLM models think and react differently. So if I keep going down, again, same thing. Why is this an issue? How to fix it? It gives a really good explanation of how you can fix it. Then keeps going into other areas. What you're starting to see is I felt like Anthropic Claude did a better job of explaining and giving examples. Like their examples have more relevance in it. They're not like some filler text. I felt like the 4.0 didn't do a good enough job for that. Then it talks about insufficient test coverage, some minor improvement, things like this. The other part that I thought was interesting is it talked about the positive aspects here, and it made some testing recommendations. Anthropic Claude also steered away from any sort of a criticism, right? So that's the second model I looked at. In terms of quality between OpenAI and Anthropic Claude, I think Claude did a better job in terms of explanation and more user-friendly, more coach-like behavior. Although you can decide how critical was the issue of with sharing, without sharing versus socket query in a loop. So I will leave that up to you. That's the second one. Finally, let's dive into Gemini on Google Cloud. The thing I'll mention is it was the fastest. The responses on this are like just blazing fast. Again, you see the difference in how it explains the same thing because we are analyzing the same class, and it has a different perspective on what it thinks is the critical issue. And it believes that the critical issue is insufficient error handling, and it explains that. What I find fascinating about these things is how they are perceiving and evaluating these things. You also see that its explanation is not great. It's just, yeah, do this, put some code in here. What I would have liked for it to do is actually take specific examples of my code and inject it here and say, this is how you could do it. But you can argue that's a bad idea. Then people will start copying it and not apply enough thought around it. Anyway, so we keep going. Then it talks about lack of input validation and so on and so forth. But what you start to see is that they're all looking at different things and coming up with stuff. And again, this gives you some positive aspects of what it found. It gives you some testing recommendations, and then it gives you a summary. And in all of the three, none of them talked about the negative aspect. Part of it is because of how we wrote the prompt. So let's take a look at the prompt here. So what you start to see is this is the prompt here, and it's got a bunch of things. It's doing some analysis against best practices on code structure, naming conventions, performance, scale, all of that, right? And the beauty is you can keep adding stuff here if you want. Prompt, you can have a separate file with this logic, and then this prompt can just bring that and run time and basically do this. You can also apply best practices if your testing considerations are higher. Maybe you don't want 75, you want 97. So you have the ability to do that. And then it has an output format and stuff like this. The other part that's very interesting is that by providing them with some pattern examples, LLMs are able to actually understand how you want them to present. And then it improves the quality of result that we got. There's some more formatting stuff that we have here. And essentially what you're seeing is this is the prompt. So this is basically what we did on the prompting side of this. And all we are doing is we are really just sending this record that we have here. And essentially, in addition to this record, which has the class name, we have a class here that is going to pull all the Apex for using metadata API and then just basically send it over to the LLM. So the third part of this is how we are switching these models and trying them out. So this is the prompt that I was running. So basically, I have the ability to just come here and pick a model. I could have picked DeepSeek if I wanted. I can pick something else here. I should try one with DeepSeek. Maybe next time we'll do it. I can just come here and pick Google and then basically pick any of the models that we saw. So a lot of support to do these things really easily. And what you would also see here is, by the way, it just populated that entire result set here. I can also push it to Jira or something if I wanted. I can email these out to somebody. I can copy them and paste it somewhere else. It's just regular HTML. So it renders pretty well in out-of-the-box Salesforce email client. And I can just literally send this to somebody if I wanted to send. Curious to hear what you think. Thank you so much.